some really good friends of mine who were also teachers in Korea were planning on traveling Asia. So I had been in Philippines for a week. We go down to Mobile and the rest is history. We couldn't leave. It just kept getting worse. As everyone else in the world didn't expect it to get as bad.
We met March 1st, 2020. I was at Our Place, which is kind of a famous gay bar in Seattle. And I looked over and saw Angie just checking me out so hard that I started laughing a little bit and just immediately walked over and introduced myself.
Right at the beginning of the pandemic, my family lost my uncle to COVID-related reasons. My elderly grandfather was living without support. I ended up moving down to Miami in mid-August to help out my grandfather, take some online classes at Florida International University, and also mobilize for the election.
Paige and I first met actually on a Zoom reoccurring Festive Friday, kind of a weekend-long Zoom chat where we would all kind of stream DJs.
I knew about it from a friend from Denver. He knew about it from a friend from Denver. However, there's people in North Carolina, Florida, California.
We were at a hostel. It was a party hostel. The name is literally Hangover Hostel. The moment I met Xavier was actually pretty early on. I specifically remember being like, "Where are you from? Your accent is really I can't understand you." And he was like, "I'm French." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
I lived in California and I was leaving the next morning. I literally left at 7 a.m.
And the world promptly blew up a week and a half after we met.
I knew I wanted to see her again. I wasn't sure when that would be.
There's 70 students on this Zoom classroom, and the professor broke us into 5-person breakout rooms.
Joined the breakout room, and I remember I wrote down on a notepad her name because I knew I would forget it. A couple days after, I took up the courage and I sent her a text message.
A DM.
A DM. I sent her a DM.
It's right at the end of April. And I think we had been on a couple of the Festive Fridays before a friend had pointed out that we lived near each other. I think that connection with Winston, it was mostly more of a convenience thing at first, I would say. And we met up and just kind of instantly clicked. I mean, we spent the whole weekend together and then we're texting from then on out. A lot of our dates used to just be going on walks outside because we couldn't go anywhere else.
Whole idea of dating was not in my mind and it was not in his mind. So we just kind of were okay, whatever. And he finally came back around. We did this project where we delivered food to frontliners. And he's the one who came up with it. And he came over and I remember the exact moment and I saw him come through the gate and he's shirtless and gorgeous. And I was like, I remember this guy.
So I was just trying to think of ideas we can connect in different ways. We bought the same book together so we could read and talk about it with each other. I bought paint by numbers. We can both paint with each other. A few weeks later, we're just all right, Saturday nights is date night. Every Saturday night we're gonna make time for each other and watch a movie and just hang out on FaceTime all night. Till this day, we still do that.
I remember we were talking about food and she told me that she loved hummus. So I said, I'm gonna make hummus. So I made my own hummus and I grabbed a sheet and I made a picnic for her at the beach, which was pretty close. And that was our first official date.
I was really hesitant to do anything romantic with him, but he was friends with us. He was now in our group. We would spend our days collectively as a group playing games, doing, group workouts, watching movie marathons, cooking together. We would, sit in the hammocks and just all talk, have a beer. So he started to just join in.
So we decided driving halfway and meeting each other was the safest option. Pretty much on the dot, 4 months after we met again in Ashland and rented a small Airbnb. And I think we're both pretty nervous because when you're talking to somebody for 4 months and you've shared all these vulnerabilities and feelings, and then you kind of question, is this going to be the same in person?
And I just remember getting out of the car. And that's the last thing I really remember. I kind of just blacked out.
She just swung the car door open and didn't even make eye contact with me, just bolted into my arms. And I think we were just hugging each other and laughing for a couple minutes. And yeah, it was a pretty cool moment.
You have to trust the other person really quick when you're dating in a pandemic. Like you're either trusting them or you're not, and there's no in between.
We're still at the COVID test.
That's like our biggest social date that we have, getting COVID tested.
We, would sneak out to go have a dinner together because things started opening up. We'd start having coffee dates. He would spend the night with me, or I would go over to his place, and then he finally moved into Hangover Hostel. We call it official, like beginning of June, and my job had been working since April to get me back. Things were finally safe enough for me to leave. So it was July, beginning of July, and I left.
The only places we really hang out indoors are my house or his house.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's forced us to spend a lot of time where it's not a outdoor like social setting where you're having people watch you. Like, if you're at a restaurant, people are watching you, or like you're interacting with others interacting around you. And it's not like we're hanging out in groups of friends often or stuff like that. It's a lot of it has to be just the two of us doing things. And so you get to know the other person really well.
The speed of the relationship definitely was accelerated by, kind of the close quarters and really couldn't do a whole lot else. And I think something that Paige and I have just kind of been figuring out more and more every day.
I left and I was in quarantine here in Korea. He stayed in the Philippines until September. He finally got a flight back in September to France. He's in France now. It was kind of one of those romantic things. If we meet, we do. If not, this is beautiful. And so I was like, listen, Zav, I love you. I'm willing to wait out this time I have in Korea if you are. He was like, thank God you said that, because I was thinking the same. And I was like, okay. Yeah, we've been doing long distance ever since. And we talk every day, selfies, I've met his parents via FaceTime, and we just sent each other Christmas presents.
One time we did the class together where we were next to each other and had to play a game of muting to make sure that the other one couldn't hear that the other one was speaking. And somehow we got away with it. Yeah. Except he unmuted at one point in front of the entire class.
Very short period of time.
And said, I love you in it.
Yeah.
And then the professor had to mute him, but no one knew who he was talking to.
It's so easy to love her, even, through the distance. I think it's made us open up even more, like over communicate, because sometimes you need reassurance through like a hug or just like a physical touch, but because we can't do that, just over communicating on how we're feeling and just being honest.
I'm just so grateful that we met when we did, because I don't know how I would have made it through all this without her.
I'm gonna move to France. I already have some connections lined up for a job, and as I'm learning French, une femme mange un orange. I'm not as far along as I should be, but neither of us would continue this long distance thing if we didn't really believe it was going to go far. So yeah, we both are 100% in it to win it. It's the real deal for sure.